this is why I'm here on this earth, is to help others.
How's it hanging? Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast, presented by Hippo Direct. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur or innovator every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, digital marketing dude at Hippo Direct, and you can reach me at max@hippodirect.com for help using your podcast as a marketing tool. This is episode number 71, and today we have something very fitting for you, considering this is released right after Giving Tuesday. Today's guest is Chris Strub, and he is the Giving Day guy. He is the first person in the entire world to live stream and Snapchat in all 50 states. He did this all in 100 days, and he did it all for good. He's a master at partnering with nonprofits and charity organizations across the globe, and he has made a name for himself as one of the top nonprofit marketers. It's time to rub-a-dub with Strub. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Chris Strub, the Giving Day guy and the man who has live streamed and Snapchatted in more states than, well, everyone. How you doing, Chris?
Good morning, Max. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I don't know how you did all that live streaming and Snapchatting and, lived to see another day and not be too exhausted after it. But I'm very thankful you're here with us today.
I don't quite know how I did it either, but here we are. We made it. So it's all gravy from here on out, I guess, huh?
It is. And who doesn't love gravy? So we're going to get into a lot of what you do in the live streaming and the nonprofit space, which is extremely cool. But before we get into that, I want to hear, what the hell were you doing before you started live streaming and before you got into this nonprofit space?
Yeah, great question. And first off, thanks for having me on. So I started out in the journalism industry. So in high school, I wanted to be Rick Riley, basically. I wanted to write the back page column for Sports Illustrated. I know we're both big sports fans, football fans.
Yes. Read me like a book.
Go Cowboys, by the way. Got to get that in early, right?
Hey, my dad is actually a huge Cowboys fan. So we got to get him on too.
Bring it on. So I started out in the journalism industry. I worked at a local newspaper in upstate New York called the Press and Sun Bulletin in Binghamton, where I went to college. Go Bearcats. And it was, worst basketball team in America. So, I was there. I started in 2006. And 2007, 8, 9, that was really like the onset of the social media sort of birth. Right. Social media, of course, was around before then, but really, Facebook, Twitter, and then really Instagram and eventually Snapchat sort of came to life during those few years. And I was kind of just thrown right into the fire, at a local newspaper, where, some of the conversations were literally like, hey, Chris, like, can you, post this to our Facebook page? Can you update our website? Can you, what should our Twitter strategy be? And eventually, I realized that there was a lot more power to this social media thing than just something that we had to do as an organization. So I took a job as a social media director at an advertising agency in Binghamton. So I worked with a whole lot of different clients around the city of Binghamton and that Southern New York region, Southern Tier region, I should say.
Mm-hmm. And shout out the beer.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Southern Tier. It's good stuff. And so I decided then, Max, that I was going to quit my job and take a 48-state road trip in the summer of 2014 and basically wanted to become Casey Neistat. I saw all of these social media influencers, making all this money and, gathering all the glory. And I said, I'm going to go do that. And so I did. I bought a GoPro and a selfie stick and I traveled around to 48 states in 90 days. That brought me to Greenville, South Carolina, where I'm speaking to you from this morning. But really that journey, Max, really didn't provide me much emotional satisfaction. And that ultimately was what led to doing 50 states in 100 days in the summer of 2015, where, of course, I worked with a different youth-related nonprofit organization in all 50 states, became the first person to live stream in Snapchat in all 50 states, it's been kind of craziness ever since.
Well, it's probably craziness then as well. And you're going to have to walk us through that a little bit as we go on, because when you say 48 states, 90 days, when you say 50 states, 100 days, I mean, I'm imagining, like the gif of Forrest Gump just running and running and running and never stopping.
There was plenty of running. So I am actually I like running half marathons. So running was actually a big part of both of those trips. I ran, I think, 3 half marathons in the first trip, and then 2 there was supposed to be a third in the second one. But really it was done actually in a car, a 2007 Honda Accord, which I still have. I called it the Honda Hotel because during that second trip, I actually slept in the back seat of the car 14 times during the trip.
Oh, wow.
Which is not great when you're 6'1" and you're sleeping in the back seat of an Accord. But, this has really become sort of who I am. It's become my identity is, 50 states, 100 days. It's become, the Honda Hotel. But more importantly, of course, over the last few years, especially, it's become this emphasis to really try and help nonprofits use social media to share their own stories. Right? I talk about the end of at the end of 50 States, 100 Days, the film. I talk about how it's not my journey anymore. It's the people's journey. It's the listener's journey. It's the viewer's journey. And to a lot of the people that may be listening to this podcast or reading my book or watching the film, 50 States, 100 Days, it's not just something that I did anymore. It's really a representation of this idea that, number one, you can do what you want to do in life if you set these big goals. And 2, that there are a lot of really wonderful people out there across America doing really wonderful work every day. And it's the journey itself is a very refreshing reminder that America is really the greatest country in America. In the world.
I was going to say it's definitely the greatest country in America. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. We'll check with the stats bureau there. But so no, it's so cool what you've done, and you have such a powerful mission behind it, and you're literally doing good, like good for America, good for the world, and every stop of the way. So it's so cool what you're doing. Just to kind of get to the origin of that, how did you decide in the first place that you wanted to make this, revolve your journey around nonprofits and be in that nonprofit space?
Yeah. So I mentioned Binghamton University. So my RA in college, his name was Lee Karshauer. He is also now my boy Lee. He's also the commissioner of my fantasy football league. So I was texting him.
That's probably what I know him as. Yeah.
So Lee founded an organization back in 2011 called Pay Away the Layaway. And if your listeners aren't familiar with layaway, it's basically when you go into a big box store like Target, Walmart, Toys R Us, and you tell the store that you're going to eventually pay for these items, on layaway. And oftentimes around the country, especially around the holidays, families that are purchasing gifts for their families on layaway are not able ultimately to pay off these layaway plans, and that can be extremely stressful around the holidays. Sometimes it can lead to, kids, grandkids not getting presents. And I had the opportunity to volunteer with Pay Away the Layaway in December 2014 here just north of Greenville in South Carolina. And it was an experience, Max, that changed my life. I had a chance basically to go in and represent the donors. So you can make a donation to payawaythelayaway.org if you want to be a part of this, and pay off layaway plans for families that were needing to cancel their Christmas gifts for their kids and their grandkids. And that moment to me, giving a hug to a grandmother at this Walmart in South Carolina, that December morning changed my life. It was a feeling that I had never felt before. And I knew from that moment forward that I needed to focus on the nonprofit space. I needed to try and focus my life and my existence here on earth towards helping people that were less fortunate. I can't imagine my family having a Christmas, with that sort of struggle. And for me, supporting Pay Away the Layaway over the years it's really provided that emotional satisfaction in ways to know that you're making this country, again, a better place. So, I took that idea, Max, and realized that, I love to drive. I love to travel and explore. I loved using social media, Snapchat, live streaming. And then I knew that I wanted to involve this nonprofit element, so I decided to work with youth-related nonprofits. Threw that all into the kettle there, stirred it up a little bit, and we ended up with 50 states, 100 days. So it was, it's a lot of planning. I tell you that. It's a lot of planning.
Oh, I'm sure. You're telling me you just didn't wing the whole thing?
We laugh, but I think actually the planning was just as, if not more difficult than the execution. The executions, the travel itself got easier when you break it up and you say, okay, I'm not going on a 50 state road trip. I'm going on 51 state road trip. So no matter where you are, it's not really that difficult. Even if you're in, Montana or North Dakota, it's not all that difficult to drive to the next state over. And so for me, that's kind of how I was able to break it down. Was like, okay, now I'm in Alabama, and all I have to do is drive up to let's see, what was after Alabama, Tennessee, right, or Arkansas, right?
Right. So, we're doing a little geography lesson here as we go.
Right. So to go from one state to the next really wasn't that difficult. What was challenging was selling this concept to the different nonprofits that I was visiting. So imagine you're running a nonprofit, again, in South Dakota, and you get a phone call from a guy in South Carolina saying, hey, what are you doing on July 18th, from 9 to 12? I'm driving across the country. Can I come hang out with the kids in your program? That's a big ask, but
right.
It really became a lot easier once people saw that I was serious about really trying to execute on a vision like this.
And I want to go back a sec because you were talking about kind of that moment where it all culminated in that hug and kind of it changed your life there. So now we'll just call that the most powerful hug of all time. But
really was.
What was it about that moment, and I guess really the events leading up to that moment, that really struck you and were effective in actually changing your life? Because it's hard. We all have routines. We all have the things we're passionate about and interested in. It takes something really striking to actually change your mindset and change your outlook on life.
Max, I call my company I Am Here because I really try and focus on being in the moment everywhere I go. I love traveling around the United States, around the world, speaking on stages and interacting with people. And, when I do trainings with nonprofits, I really try and avoid doing webinars and all that sort of stuff because I like being there in the room with people. And I think that to translate it back to what you're asking about that moment, at that Walmart, to me, that's a product of showing up. I think that's a product of just being there in person and understanding and feeling that real life emotion. And really, there's video of this moment happening too, where the sorrow, the sadness in this woman's eyes turning to pure ecstasy and joy and relief that she wouldn't have to literally return the Christmas gifts that she was intending to get for her grandkids. I can describe that on a podcast, and I've described this experience before, but unless you're actually out there, unless you can feel it, unless you know what it's like to be able to help someone without any sort of expectation in return, it's immeasurable and it's incomparable. And so, for me, I hope that if you're listening to this podcast, that you consider some of the volunteer experiences that are out there, because you can have this same sort of emotion, with any number of nonprofits within your community. It doesn't have to be pay away the layaway, but it's the sort of thing where you realize like, oh, this is why I'm here on this earth is to help others. And, that's really what kind of struck me in that moment, Max, was like a real kind of evaluation of what I was doing with my life. Who am I? Right? I'm just some maniac that just drove around the country just to take pictures of myself and go to baseball games and hang out at Hooters. Like it was fun, but it was meaningless. It was empty. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that moment, as you referenced, really represented that watershed change in my life to to try and achieve something more with my life. And Max, not to belabor this point, but I used to have trouble sleeping at night. I used to wake up in the middle of the night sweating, and I used to have bad dreams about dying. Sometimes I would even call my parents in the middle of the night, and it was petrifying, and it was awful. And ever since I did 50 States, 100 Days, I haven't had a single one of those dreams. I haven't ever felt
Wow.
those emotions again. I'm not on any kind of medication. I haven't gone to therapy. It's nothing deeper than just a recognition of what your place in this world really is. And, if we wrap up this podcast and, I get hit by a bus this afternoon, I'm going to walk off this earth knowing that I've helped people in some form or fashion. And there's really nothing you can say that I think means more than that, at the end of the day.
Well, my only request is that you stay inside for the rest of the afternoon, because we do not want that to happen, Chris. But jokes aside, that's incredibly powerful. I really, really appreciate you sharing that. And you can just hear in your voice how powerful of a moment and how meaningful it was for you to go out and experience these things and really change your outlook on life. So you can, it's apparent in your voice now, but it's apparent in all the work you do, how meaningful this stuff is for you and how strongly you believe that you and really anybody has the ability just to go out and do good and be helpful. And so it's just so wonderful that you've done it literally across every state there is out there. And you've documented all of it to help both the organizations and the viewers and people who are interested in learning more about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the paradox sometimes with, documenting and sharing experiences on social media, especially in the social good space. And, there's a lot of people out there that do a lot of really wonderful work that prefer to do things behind the scenes. And, to me, kind of trying to encourage people to share their experiences and to open up and be social about what you're doing. And on the flip side, encouraging the nonprofits to make these experiences feel more social sometimes. I think it's just critically important to bring more of this sort of positive energy into these spaces on social media that especially, again, Max, I think now more than ever, we need to celebrate these nonprofits, celebrate their mission, celebrate the work that they're doing in our communities to make where we live and where we work better places. And so for me, again, 50 States, 100 Days is really just kind of a snapshot of some of these humans around the U.S. whose names, aren't going to crack into the mainstream, but, they're representative of their own states and of their own organizations, of the millions of people out there that are tirelessly trying to make the world a better place.
There's just something so special about the nonprofit space. I mean, we love nonprofits. We work with a ton of nonprofits here at Hippo Direct. We, sometimes in tough times, we operate as a nonprofit, not by choice. I'm just messing with but
sure.
So we're, just being in the marketing space and working with a lot of nonprofits, we're always looking at ways of marketing for nonprofits, but also of marketing to nonprofits. But you're really the expert at this. I'd love to hear from your side of things, like in all of that you've done to really partner with all these nonprofits. And again, you're talking about Humana and Salvation Army, like some of the top, the biggest names out there. What tactics or methods have been most effective from your standpoint and your partner's standpoint as far as marketing for nonprofits? Because it's literally in the name, but it's a tough space to be in.
I think it's a tough space to be in because of these psychological disadvantages that we naturally build into just our thinking about nonprofits, right? Nonprofit, I credit this quote to Vu Le, who's one of the best nonprofit speakers in America, but he tweeted back to me and he said, it's not his quote, it's from somebody else. But the quote was, nonprofit is a tax status, not a business model. And we in the nonprofit space sometimes think that we have to act like the shy, the shy guy standing in the corner, while all of the bigger, the Coca-Colas and the for-profit organizations, breathe in all the air and gather all the attention in the social media space. And that's not the case. I think in many ways, the work that nonprofits do is much more important than, selling sodas or, sandals or whatever product you might be selling. So
you're ruining all of our marketing plans. We're going to do a soda sandal combo pack right after this, but I guess maybe not. There goes that idea.
That was your 12:30 interview. Well, you cancel that one, Max.
I'm starting to read. I think this is my life-changing moment.
I think that we have to think sometimes about how important our work is to the people that are consuming it. We get too caught up in the last decade on measuring success on social media through social media metrics, right? We all know, we've heard enough podcasts now to know that we need to create content that, people like and share and, they'll comment on and, send to their friends and blah, 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 blah. No, I don't think that's the way that we need to measure success on social media for nonprofits, right? If your nonprofit is tasked with, ending or abating the opioid epidemic in the state of Kentucky, your content on social media is not going to be, rampantly shared by someone who is addicted to opioids and who is coming to your nonprofit to solve that addiction, right? Or you're a food bank in Eastern Michigan, right? Your Liberty Family Outreach up in Warren, Michigan. The mission that you have to provide, food and provide services to people that need it, it is not a natural reaction for the person that you are serving to take that experience and share it forward on social media, right? Whereas, okay, we go to Disney World, we go to McDonald's, and everything is built for you to take a picture of it and to share it on Twitter and blah, 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 blah. But when you're receiving social services, when you're the recipient of something that is changing your life, it is not designed to be shared on social media. So to me, a huge part of my mission and a huge part of what I have shared with nonprofits around the country is to stop measuring your success on social media through the same sort of diagnostics that these B2C happy-go-lucky brands are using, right? And we have to look at, dollars raised. We have to look at the impact that we've had in the community and keep on going back to that. And really, in some ways, kind of ignore if our content, not ignore isn't the right word, but kind of look beyond those traditional social media metrics. And, if your Facebook Live video where you're explaining exactly how someone can benefit from your services this month or whatever it might be, doesn't get 100 comments on it, that doesn't mean that it hasn't had an impact on the people that are seeing it or that are listening. So you have to really think creatively and really embrace when someone picks up the phone and calls you or sends you a direct message on Facebook or sends an email or even walks in the front door. Ask them, did you see, how did you learn about our services? Where did you see this? That answer may very well be something that you posted on Facebook or something that you shared on Instagram, even if they're not responding to it on those social media channels.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It definitely should not be the same standard. And it just makes a lot of sense for the space and just how much good comes out of it. And it's almost a little tacky to think of it from, if you look at like a social media. Yeah. If you look at it from that standpoint. So there's also it's kind of a interesting segue into a lot of stuff that you do. And you are, which must have been 3-4 years ago that you kind of rebranded as the Giving Day guy.
Yeah. A couple of years. I did my first Giving Day in 2017. So yeah.
Perfect. So the Giving Day guy, GDG, like maybe Giving Day guy comes out the tongue easier. So you've really made a name for yourself and your partners for really celebrating going all in on these giving days for these different nonprofits, and live streaming, I know, is a huge part of it. So can you walk us through how you ended up going down that route and really focusing on that area as opposed to, continuing to go to, 55 states and 60? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, to touch on that last point quickly first, I mean, I am really, really open to doing more road trip marketing. I would love to get back out, whether it's around the United States or even around, Europe or Australia or some other, continent.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm totally open to that concept. So let's not put that completely aside yet.
Right, of course.
But, I was introduced to the idea of a giving day through my work with Humana. Back in 2016, I had a meeting with the Community Foundation of Louisville, which runs one of the biggest giving days in the country. It's called Give for Good Louisville, and it's usually the second Thursday of September every year. And I had not heard of the concept of a giving day. Let me spin this back to you, Max. Had you heard of a giving day? Did you know what that was before you encountered me on social media?
I've heard of it before, but I haven't heard of somebody associate themselves with it so closely as you have.
So for me, again, there's, if you're listening and you're not familiar, there's Giving Tuesday, which is the biggest one. It's always the first Tuesday right after Black Friday. So
maybe that's actually what I've heard of.
Yeah. So Giving Tuesday is kind of the biggest giving day of the year. There are dozens of individual giving days around the country, and then there's a whole bunch more around the world that take place simultaneously as part of Giving Tuesday. And the team at Giving Tuesday does a wonderful job of really marketing that element of it, in the beginning of December, and really trying to make it a year-round thing. But these individual giving days are going to be sort of a spin-off, if you will, of Giving Tuesday, and they take place in individual communities around the U.S. and now moving around the world on a day that's not Giving Tuesday. So again, we referenced Give for Good Louisville, which is in September. I worked with the Big Give in San Antonio, which is in March, and then Give STL Day, which is traditionally the beginning of May, out of course in St. Louis. And so these giving days are opportunities for nonprofits, usually I would say in the hundreds. The bigger the giving day, the better. So, for a city like St. Louis, you're going to have, hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits doing this simultaneously. And then the giving day itself is a sum. It's a total of all of the donations that are made during that, usually a 24-hour period. So midnight to midnight, hundreds of organizations are concurrently running their own fundraising strategies that are tied together through this thread. They're tied together with this little bow called Give STL Day. Mm-hmm. And then a platform like GiveGab or Civicor is running the website that is totaling all of the donations that are coming in. So this year in St. Louis, they raised more than $3 million in one day.
Holy cow.
I mean, it kind of jumps out at you, right? San Antonio is about 4.7 million. Louisville actually jumped to $6.88 million raised in one day for the nonprofits in these communities. So it's a big deal, Max. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's massive.
And so for me, seeing and hearing numbers like that, and considering the representation of all the nonprofits simultaneously, to me, I look at a giving day in a community as its own Super Bowl. And that's how I describe it to all the giving days that I work with is, look, like for many of the nonprofits that are taking part today, this is the most important day of their year. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull out all the stops. We're going to use every last bit of breath that we have on social media. We're going to use all of our social capital. We're going to go live as much as we possibly can. And we're going to really bust out all the noise, take out every instrument in the closet and play it as loud as we can to let everyone in the community know that today is your day to give. And for me, working as the Giving Day guy, it's incredibly special to go from city to city and really raise a ruckus on social media in each one of those communities on their specific day.
And I appreciate you using the correct pronunciation as Louisville, not Louisville. My dad's side is from Louisville, and there's a lot of distinction there, depending on where you're from.
It's funny.
It's a great city.
I live now in Greenville, and I find myself calling it Greenville. Just because I had the
That's
chance
a new one.
I had a chance to live up in Louisville, of course, working with Humana back in 2016. It's a lovely place.
Yeah,
It's a lovely city.
yeah. It's an awesome city. So when you approach these quote unquote Super Bowls, but really it is for these brands. I love that metaphor there. What's your mindset going in? I mean, do you get full night's sleep? Do you get all charged up for it? Like how do you tackle these days that are really, there's a lot riding on them, and obviously it's all upside, but they're very important days.
Man, it's more than a full night's sleep. I know we follow each other on social media. Later this afternoon, I'll go down to the fitness center here in my apartment building, and I'll work out. I'm not an athlete. I'm not training for anything in particular, although I am running another half marathon this weekend up in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
There we go. Well, good luck with it.
But for me, when I say thank you, when I say I'm the giving day guy, I am working every single day of the year to work towards that next giving day that's coming up. Right now, the next giving day on my schedule is the Big Give in San Antonio in March. I hope to add a couple more before then in some negotiations and some phone calls. But for me, when I eat healthy today, it's because I want to be able to maximize my energy on March 20th for the Big Give San Antonio. When I work out, when I get a good night's sleep, when I study, when I'm reading, articles about nonprofits, I'm always looking for that next innovation that I can bring to a giving day. Conversely, I'm going to go to sleep at 9 p.m. the night before a giving day so we can wake up and go full blast. And this is how I sell myself to these organizations is giving days are exhausting. In many ways, they're kind of like a marathon of their own. They're their own one day, 50 states, 100 days. Where oftentimes, you think about it, if you start at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., you're going to be tired by 8, 9, 10. But in many ways, that's when people are giving because that's when they're spending the most time on social media, laying in bed, watching stuff on Facebook, watching stuff on their iPad. So for me, being the giving day guy is not just, okay, this is something that I do, when the giving day itself rolls around. It's something that I am working towards every single day of the year to try and be the best version of myself, to be able to step in and create the absolute best content that they can leverage on their giving day to succeed and raise that maximum amount of money.
So you're like the world's most underrated athlete because you really approach this like an athlete. It's like when you think of professional sports, it really comes down to how much work you're willing to put in the off season as far as how you get better the next time. And so for you, really there's not really an off season. You're always kind of planning for it. And the more you plan ahead, as you said before, the better the potential outcome for your partners there. So it's really neat you've taken that approach.
I think there's positive ramifications to having good personal health in everything that you do. I get to speak a lot at different social media events throughout the year as well, and I look at it the same way, right? Social media marketing world out in San Diego, it is physically taxing. It is exhausting. And for me, I get a lot out of these events because I go in strategically. I go in knowing that I want to get the most out of it. And more importantly, I think, this is what my brand represents, that if someone meets me, someone's been following me on Twitter for a year or two, whatever, and then they come to an event with a hope of taking a picture with me or shaking my hand or coming to see me speak, like I better bring it because that's my brand promise. That's what I'm telling you on this podcast. That's what I represent every day on social media.
Yeah.
Is this positive energy. And in many ways, I think that's what brands hire me for, right? It's not even necessarily the knowledge or the ability to execute. It's that positive attitude that you bring and that optimism and that energy that can help bring the best out of the other people that you are around. So I don't know that I'd call myself the world's most underrated athlete. I mean, that's quite a thing there. I'm sure there's a case.
I think I was actually filing for the trademark as you were speaking. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, I thought before the season that Baker Mayfield was the world's most underrated.
All right,
athlete,
let's not. Next segment. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just messing with you. I gotta get a Browns pick
in there somewhere, man.
Hey, I could have 28,000 different responses depending on whenever you're listening to this. So I'm just not going to touch that one. Anyway, I do in a terrible segue, live streaming. So, or the absence of segue, live streaming. So it's one of the tool. Okay. So like Baker's arm. No.
Yeah. Well,
it's one of the tools that's very effective for you and for when you do everything you do for nonprofits and yourself as well. So out of all the different tools on social media and all the different things we have in our toolkit here online, why live streaming? Why are you so big on live streaming?
I know you think you stumbled through that segue, but it's actually a really good segue because
thank you.
This live streaming element is really the best way to represent the positive energy, not just of me, right? Now, I'm not just talking about when I'm in front of the camera or I'm doing a podcast or I'm on stage. But live streaming, I've always tried to represent to all these different nonprofits, is the best way to explain to your audience who you are, right? When you turn that camera on, and again, we can talk about Switcher Studio, we can talk about buying the right microphones and the lights and all that different stuff. But at the end of the day, when you go live, you can't hide. You're out there, on the playing field, and you are speaking directly to the people that want to, or that ultimately with nonprofits need to hear from you, right? So for me, again, using live streaming as sort of the primary tool with Giving Days, as the primary tool with hosting other events and different things that I'm involved with, or even at social media conferences. To tie it back to the last answer that I just gave, it's a representation of the energy that you bring. And when you go live, or even when we record a podcast, it is a prime sort of exaltation of energy. You have to be there. You have to be able to be present. When we're talking about stretching that over a 24-hour period, you're really able to demonstrate and maximize kind of what these nonprofits are about at scale by setting out and using live streaming repeatedly throughout the day. Starting, let's say 6 a.m. and creating 15 or 20 live streaming videos throughout the day. It's not an ordinary day. And that's exactly what we're trying to represent. Right. Is that today is the day to give. We have pulled out all the stops. We've brought in this guy, this maniac from South Carolina who's live streaming all around our community from dawn till, midnight, because we are trying to emphasize to you, the potential donor, that today is the big day. And now is your opportunity to give.
And it's such a unique, it's so, I'm thankful. I'm sure you're incredibly thankful that this tool has been made so easy to live stream. Like, it didn't used to be that way. It didn't used to be so easy that way. But I'm curious, from your perspective, because you are the pro of all pros at this, what would you say is your top tip for somebody that's interested in live streaming?
Well, I think the top tip is get started. The deeper I get into this career of live streaming everywhere and anywhere, the more I'm starting to try and create better content. But I also think that creating better content needs to come at your own pace. Way too many people shy away from using this medium because they're afraid of not being perfect right off the bat. And that was like quite literally why they brought me to Humana in the first place back in 2016, was really to get started with live streaming. And we helped the team there bust through this idea of perfectionism and of needing to have everything have that exact corporate feel. And so for the nonprofits that I work with, for anybody who's listening to this, I would say get started, right? As Brian Fanzo would say, I know you talked to Brian a handful of episodes ago, push the damn button, but also take the time to watch what you just created and ask yourself, how can I do something better the next time, right? Push the damn button is great, but what can you do to improve, to make it a better experience for the viewer who will actually want to listen in, to watch for a longer period of time, or ultimately to get people to go from, no, I don't want to share this video with my friends, to yes, I do, right? So when you pick up your phone and you just broadcast live, there's immense benefits to that. to sharing your message, to getting your voice out there, to being present with your audience. But you're not going to create content right off the bat if you're just holding your phone in your hand that people are going to necessarily want to sit down and watch for a long period of time. How can we make this video steadier that people actually will be able to watch it without getting seasick? How can we improve the sound that people can listen to it? How can we maybe use a tool like Switcher Studio or Be Live or some of these other third-party tools out there to put graphics on the screen, to use multiple cameras, to create content that's now moving towards something that people will willingly want to spend their time watching and listening to. But you have to get there at your own pace. You have to start somewhere, and then you're slowly going to get better. For me, I've learned to invest in some different tools. I've learned to use Switcher Studio pretty aggressively during these giving days. I've learned to make sure that the connection is strong enough so that the Wi-Fi doesn't drop. All those little things add up to moving from someone who is willing to live stream to someone who is creating live streams that are worth watching and ultimately worth paying for.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. I think a lot of people kind of do things and expect to get better at it. And obviously, the more you do something, the more likely you are to get better at it. But you definitely have to be cognizant and aware of the actual points of where you can get better and improve on it. So I'm totally with you there. So you finally decide to start a podcast. Congrats! You've never been more excited. But wait a sec. You quickly find out this is way more of a time commitment than you initially thought. You're going to need someone that has you covered behind the scenes. That's where I come in. Email me at max@hippodirect.com and let's get wild. Let's switch gears a little bit, switch streams, if you will, and we're going to talk about inspiration and creativity. So here, think about ways you stay creative, ways you stay inspired. So to start us off here, what do you do to stay creative?
I proactively consume, and I consume with intentionality. I think that there are a lot of really spectacular creators out there these days on Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever platform you want to name. There are so many smart, advanced thinkers out there. And I've tried to use social media from a personal perspective over the years to literally and figuratively and digitally surround myself with people smarter than myself, people much smarter than myself, to a point where you're not copying what other people are doing, but you're looking at what others are creating and you're trying to draw elements from what they do to improve your own style, right? If you're watching something or you're listening to a podcast or you go to an event, you really need to go in there and not look at it passively like, oh, this is just something that I'm doing and then I'm going to go back to what I do ordinarily. You really want to try and challenge yourself to think about an aspect of what you do on a day-to-day basis that you can do better. And for me, staying creative has meant being willing to be malleable with the thought processes that I use to create and to work with these, say, giving day partners.
Well, malleable is an exceptional word, so I have to give you credit for that. But
I was a 5th grade spelling bee champion. I love it.
Oh, there you go. Well, congrats. A little belated congrats, but yeah. I have to ask now, do you remember the word you won on?
It's funny. Vincent Warlick was just tweeting about this the other day. You never remember the word that you won on. You remember the word that you lose on the next time. So I definitely
too
remember.
Soon for me.
I definitely remember too soon. Like you have a experience coming back to mind now.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was, I think it was 6th grade and I was in the top 10, but the word was breathe. No, the word was breath. See, I still messed it up. the word was breath and I spelled it like breathe. I put the E on the end. And I was so shocked when they came over and said, "Oh, you're wrong." And I'm like, "What?" And then, so that was a lot of fun and had some, some great natural jokes there, and make sure to breathe in, breathe out when you're recovering from this. But.
Yeah. I wish I could translate mine forward. Mine's a little weirder. My word was cicada. and I spelled it like the artist John Cicada.
Ooh,
So
I would be totally lost as well.
so
I think there's no shame there.
yeah, I wish I could say that I've listened to John Cicada every night for the last 25 years now, and not really the case. But
So, as much as we can talk about grammar for the rest of the time, I'm curious. Like
this is the
you
Wild
also,
Grammar Growth podcast, right?
yes, exactly. Well, that really rolls off the tongue, huh? You mentioned, well, another word that you mentioned is creator, and I really like that because there are so many amazing creators out there. So, who are the creators out there that really challenge you and inspire you, and you felt like you've really learned from?
Man, the first name that comes to my mind immediately is going to be Roberto Blake, right?
Oh
Roberto is just
yeah, yeah, he's awesome.
a stunningly brilliant. I call him an oracle. And what's really fun about rolling through some of these names, again the Brian Fanzos of the world, Bella Vasta is another one. I get to befriend these people in real life by going to a lot of these different social media events. So, social media marketing world or the social shakeup, the Midwest Digital Marketing Conference and Inbound, all these different opportunities. I get the sense, that too many people just listen and they're too passive about their engagement with these creators. For me, I could watch Roberto Blake, for days and days on end on YouTube, but for me, there's nothing quite like getting a chance to give him a hug and sit front row at his session at Inbound or Social Media Marketing World and get a chance to pick his brain for a few minutes walking down the hallway. People like Sean Duras and Mark Kay were some of those early stage Snapchat creators that
Right.
really inspired me to, create my own interview style, right? I talk a lot about Mark Kay back in the origins of using Snapchat as sort of a journalism tool, that he had a show back in 2014, 2015 called Talk and Snap. And he doesn't do it anymore, but it was brilliant in the way that he was able to interact with other creators, the opera Americanos and the M. Platkos of the world, to bring
Yeah.
those people into his own show. And I said, wow, okay, this goes back to what I was talking about a minute ago. I saw that Mark was doing something awesome. And instead of trying to copy Mark, I took the idea, twisted it forward into my own concept and said, okay, I'm going to go do Snapchat interviews in real life with nonprofits in all 50 states. So I wasn't doing Talk and Snap, but I was trying to create episodic Snapchat content that involved interviewing people on Snapchat. And I think in many ways, it kind of helped open that door for others to kind of use Snapchat and really this incremental storytelling medium that's been birthed, through Instagram stories and all these other stories mediums now. It was kind of fun being at the cutting edge of that back in 2015.
And I think what you touched on is so key, as it's not just, paying attention to what other people are doing. It's what twist can you do to what they're already doing to really make it your own and make it ownable. And so it's getting ideas from other people. It's not just doing what they do. It's seeing what you can apply to your business and your brand and then making that your own. So you've clearly, more than excelled at that. What about on the other side of things? So kind of outside of work, and when you're not, when you're not doing, training for a marathon or at the gym, what other things do you like to do besides what other hobbies do you like besides sort of the physical things there?
I love exploring the city of Greenville, South Carolina. I had a
You
chance
mean
to
Greenville?
travel. Greenville, yes. I had the chance to explore, again, all 50 states and then the 48 states that are, as a predecessor or as the precedent to that trip. And so for me, where I live now is very much with intentionality. I'm recording this podcast looking out over Academy Street in downtown Greenville, and just looking forward to getting back out there and exploring some of the restaurants, some of the event scene. I went last night to the Peace Center and I saw a pretty magnificent show of it was like a circus type show last night.
Oh.
I walked down there at 6:30 and the show started at 7. It was great. It was, and these are the sort of opportunities that are surrounding me physically here, in addition to, Asheville, Charlotte, Atlanta. So I love when I'm not, again, on a treadmill or, lifting weights somewhere. To me, it's about either exploring the local community, getting out and hiking or playing golf or, just living the experiences here in Greenville, or, jumping in the car and, like I said, this weekend I'm driving up to up near Knoxville and running the Pigeon Forge half marathon in Tennessee. So for me, it's always about trying to stay active. I'm never going to be that kind of guy that just loves to, kind of curl up and watch Netflix for days on end. To me, life is precious, and I really love getting out and exploring, again, attending some of these other social media conferences and events and socializing and getting out and building relationships with people that will allow me to do a better job with what I do as the Giving Day guy, as an event host. I like reading and writing, and admittedly, I watch a little bit of Twitch as well. I've been watching some. I watch Mario Maker 2 on Twitch quite a bit with Ryukar and DGR and some of these really brilliant creators that are in some of these alternate universes here from the the social media marketing type spaces.
Literally, yeah. Well, that stuff's fascinating. That that could be a whole other tangent. But I'm curious just because I'm not too familiar with Greenville. What and I know I'm not saying that exactly right, but I'll say it my nerdy way. Greenville. What was it about that city that drove you there in the first place? I mean, that got you to stay there and actually eventually move there.
I mean, ultimately, it's always about the people. It's always about the interactions that you have. And I was very, very blessed when I first came here in 2014. I went to a place called Bacon Brothers Public House, and I had a great experience. My bartender, his name is Jason. I still keep up with Jason sometimes here in Greenville.
Oh, wow.
Just even stopping at the mall, stopping at the gas station, wherever you might go, when you go visit somewhere, you can learn a lot about the community based on the people that you interact with. And so the interactions that I had in Greenville my first time here, and then when I came back to visit, I was actually here during Fall for Greenville, which is their big, there's events here almost every weekend, down along Main Street, but Fall for Greenville is the biggest event of the year here in the city. It's a 3-day festival where they shut down Main Street all the way up and down and fill it with vendors and, there's concert stages and there's beer tents and everything you could possibly imagine in a Southeastern festival was there. But ultimately, I think when I went on these trips in the first place, I knew I had my eye on the Southeastern region in general anyway. That to me, I'll always be a New Yorker at heart. Long Island is always going to be home for me. But for me, I love the pace of life here in South Carolina. I love that there's not massive traffic. I love that life doesn't seem to move with this shocking sense of urgency as it does up on Long Island, up in the city. Mm-hmm. So it's the pace, it's the people. In many ways, it's the food. And then in many ways, it's the downtown atmosphere that if you've ever stepped foot in Greenville, South Carolina, that, you've got Falls Park with the only massive sort of pedestrian suspension bridge in America that goes across a giant waterfall that's right in the middle of downtown. Like, this city has been it's been like a multi-decade project to build this community into a place where people like me are encouraged to move. And now here I am, right? So if you're Mayor Knox White and you're listening to this podcast, like, you have succeeded in your generational plan to bring younger people to come move to Greenville, South Carolina, because they have done a spectacular job in urban planning around the downtown area of this community. It's something to see. It's worth going out of your way to take a vacation down here. It's incredible.
And Mayor White, if you're still listening, you need to pay Chris a lot more because he is completely selling the city. I'm ready to check out the city right now. So it sounds like a wonderful place to be.
And Max, you follow me on Twitter and these different social media channels. Like, I talk about Greenville all the time. I can't get enough of this. And for me, again, as a single guy, this city and my work are my loves. You know what I mean? I love life in the city, and I love working with Giving Days around the United States. This is what I've got, So for me, it's a true, genuine appreciation for the culture that has really blossomed here in Greenville over the last 25, 30 years.
You can feel your passion there. let's get to a fan favorite segment here called the Wild Business Shout Out of the Week. The Wild Business Shout Out of the Week. So Wild Business Shout of the Week. This is where we talk about a recent brand or campaign that caught our attention. And earlier we were chatting and you mentioned something about, I'll just say Mickey Mouse to give a little clue, but I'll let you go into it. You mind walking us through it?
I think it's wild to see, and I spend a lot of time on Twitter. It's really interesting for me to see this continued growth of Disney Plus, and we've lived on the forefront, on the cutting edge of this cord cutting atmosphere, where, I remember growing up. How old are you, Max?
I am, at the time of this recording, I am 27, like 27 and a half.
So this might be a little before your time, but I don't know if you ever worked at television where you had to physically get up off the couch and go turn the dial and, flip past the
yes, I'm familiar with them. I've heard of flip phones too. No, I'm just kidding.
You've heard of flip phones? Yeah. Did you ever dial into like America Online, where it's like, Mom, get off the phone.
Yes. Oh my God. Especially at my, at my grandma's house, it was kind of that was a shocker once we had switched and then went back to dial up, and then we'd go to visit my grandparents' house, and actually right across from Louisville. It was like just, oh my God, it felt like waiting forever to get on there.
See, you got the harmonica. You got to get like the dial up sound and edit that.
Oh no, that I don't want people to like shiver.
but for me, again, seeing these announcements and seeing these campaigns about, Star Wars and yesterday the commercial that I saw was The Simpsons now being part of Disney and having that alleged self-awareness with Bart Simpson kind of, I don't know if you've seen this video where he's like, they're taking a group picture in front of the Disney sign and Bart Simpson, true to his character, kind of moons the camera. And, to me, again, we've talked for a decade about this seismic shift towards cord cutting and streaming services. And I mean, there is absolutely no turning back now, seeing how so many of these content services are getting swallowed up by some of the bigger companies out there, obviously Disney and, Netflix and Google and, all these different channels are investing majorly in content. To me, that's what's been most fascinating on my mind lately is just how much more content we're creating these days, and this gradual shift towards these mega companies investing dollars in, episodic content and even investing in old content, right? These are the big battles these days is, where am I going to be able to watch Friends and Mad About You and, Seinfeld? Seinfeld's going to be on Netflix in 2021. Like that show ended 20 years ago. Like,
yeah,
that was way before Max's time, but this.
No, I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. Gotta say
this balance of creating new content versus investing in old stuff, and this conglomeration, especially with Disney, of just owning and really kind of melting together everything into one big pot has been fascinating to me over the last, couple of weeks and couple months.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it changes, and especially in an industry like the media industry that's for so long, like traditional TV was everything. And now it's changed so much. So that much is fascinating. What do you think that Disney Plus needs to do to be successful, but to stand out and actually earn people's attention away from Netflix and any other, providers that are out there?
I've long since thought that the real key to this transition is not necessarily going to be in the hands of these content farmers. It's going to be more about the technology that allows you to tune into these things. So, my dad is a little more technologically advanced than my mom, but, for me, I almost look at it like the mom test, right? Like if my mom is willing to make that sort of shift from spending $90 a month, on cable TV to finally listening to her son and spending $20 a month on something like Disney Plus or Netflix or Hulu.
Hint, hint, mom.
Yeah. So ultimately, to answer your question, what do the televisions look like? What do the remote controls look like? How is the voice control working? Like, is it easy enough for not the Chris Strubs and the Maxes of the world? Because we get it, right? I mean, we know exactly, if we were going to sign up for the streaming service, I could do it while we're here on this podcast.
Right.
But it's still that generation, I think, that's above us, that is still emotionally and financially locked into these traditional subscription models. What will it take for them to cut the cord? I think it's a progression of the hardware side of things that makes it just as easy, if not easier, for people to consume this maybe less expensive for now content that would encourage that behavioral change to ditch the cable box and plug in the Chromecast or the Apple TV.
It doesn't matter how good you could have, every greatest show of all time. You could have the best content there ever was. But if people have if there's friction there, if people have a hard time getting to it, or it's not easily accessible or not intuitive how to even sign up or watch anything, then nobody's going to watch it. So that's super true there.
Yeah.
So let's go to a segment called The Unusual. So think about pet peeves, quirks, and weird talents. So Chris, what is your biggest pet peeve?
People that don't wash their hands. Wash your hands, man. Like I don't know if this is supposed to be like a social media specific pet peeve.
No. That's perfect. I'll go wash my hands right now, actually.
Like I get furious, especially at airports, places like that, or restaurants. Like, these spaces, this is not your home. You know what I mean? What you do in your home, I don't really care. You know what I mean? If you don't feel like keeping soap in the bathroom, whatever. But when you're in a shared space with me, and we're both going to go, use the same little table to sit at the airport gate or whatever it might be, I am so close to just reaching this point where I want to just yell at people. I don't
go for it. I support this. Wash your hands.
and then we wonder why people get sick. And, the answer is right there in front of you. You know what I mean? I'm going to knock on wood right now and say, I haven't been sick in 5+ years now. And I wash my hands like crazy. I keep Purell in my car every time I touch any kind of surface. I'm surprised I've gone through this whole podcast without, grabbing some hand sanitizer. So
yeah, I thought we might hear it in the background.
For me, germs drive me nuts. And when people are so closed off from the rest of the world that they think they don't need to just wash your hands after you use the bathroom, that is easily my number one biggest pet peeve.
It's funny because it's something that we all learn at such a young age, and it's amazing. I'm with you. I'm blown away when I'm at the airport or something, or like a football game, and I see people walk out with that. I'm like, how do you live with yourself? But I guess
I don't understand people who don't use dental floss either. You know what I mean?
Yes,
I can't square that when I go to the dentist and they're like, "Oh, Chris, you're doing a good job with." How can you? When they use the floss,
how do you even go out in public?
when they use the floss on you at the dentist office, and they're pulling stuff out of your teeth, and you realize that you could do that yourself every day, and you could pull that much stuff out of your teeth every single day, and you choose not to do it. I'm sorry. I could go on and on and on. This is not a Seinfeld episode, though.
Now maybe we'll just license their music for the bass line there. But I have to shout out my college roommate Tyreek, because he said the exact same thing. Multiple times he went on a rant, I just don't get it how you can go to the dentist and you can see what happens when you floss and just act like you can go about the rest of your life and not floss and not worry about it.
Oh yeah, I'll get another round of floss in 6 months. Come on, man. What universe are we living in these days?
Gotcha. So in addition to being, I don't know if you call yourself a germaphobe, but let's just say you're not friendly with germs. So in addition to sort of that aspect of your personality, that characteristic, what would you say is another big quirk that you have? Maybe something that your family or friends or your bartender buddy calls you out on that's a little bit quirky about your personality, but it's who you are?
I wish I could phone a friend and have them give me this answer. Um, you know, I mean, I'm definitely a sleepaholic. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I love sleep more than anyone I
I think it's
know.
okay. Yeah.
My my friends that I connect with at these social media conferences often give me some crap because I'll be one of the first ones to turn in, and I'm like, I don't drink coffee. I don't drink energy drinks. You know, I don't use artificial things in my body to keep my energy level up. So, you know, for me, I think my biggest quirk is insisting on sleep more and more as I get older. I think in many ways that's helped keep me young. Obviously, we could talk for hours about the restorative benefits of sleep, but um,
Yeah.
I'm a sleep junkie. I cannot get enough. If I don't get 6 hours, you know, at least 6 hours, hopefully 8 hours, then just stay out of my way. I'm going to be in a bad mood. I'm not going to be productive. So for me, sleep is a non-negotiable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't negotiate it with you. It's good stuff. So it's super important. I'm actually with you. I'm on the same page with you on the coffee standpoint. So, and it's, I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you're with big coffee drinkers, which I feel like is most people, and then
Yes.
you're not drinking coffee, they kind of look at you like you have three heads. And like it's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very unique there. So,
Especially
we got to stick together.
especially in the social media industry. You know, coffee seems to be
Right.
just like a part of what everybody does. And I'm pretty glad that that's, you know, and it's nice to know that there's somebody else out there in that same boat. Like,
Hey, yeah, yeah.
you
Right,
know,
right back at you.
I never touch this. I'll drink 1 or 2 cups of coffee a year. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, that's even more than me. How about weird talents? What's something that you're really, really good at, but it doesn't have an impact on your business or your brand? Like it's a random thing. Like maybe it's a memory trick. Maybe it's something like a body trick. That sounds kind of funny, but what's something like
You
in
should
that
see me
category?
with some ping pong balls, Max.
Oh boy.
um, boy, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm getting better at cooking. You
Oh,
know,
nice.
I really, most people probably don't know my dad is a retired chef. My mom is in a very, very long-term relationship with another chef, an executive chef.
Oh,
So,
wow.
it kind of runs in my family where I really take pleasure in cooking. I've been on sort of a taco binge lately. I'm eyeing my corn tacos from across the room right now, as well as my bottle of hand sanitizer. You know, these tacos await me here for lunch soon. But you know, it's definitely a passion of mine that doesn't have an impact on my business. You know, I've tried to tie it in and try to eat healthy. I do a lot of meal prep. You know, chop a lot of vegetables, and you know, there's always onions and spinach. And I famously have had a NutriBullet for a few years. Used to kind of make that a point of focus on my Instagram story and my Snapchat story every day. So I'm kind of a foodie, kind of a closet foodie.
Yeah,
I don't talk
I'd say
about it all
so.
the time, but you know, it is an important element of who I am is what I eat, and I'm pretty intentional about it.
Well, there's something good about sleep. There's something good about food. So hard to argue with that. And I think you'll get to your tacos and hand sanitizer soon enough. But first, I do want to wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A if you're ready for it.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get wild. I know you're a beer fan. What is your favorite type of beer?
Oh gosh, type of beer would be certainly an IPA. Had a few of them last night.
Oh, well, congrats. What about favorite brand or it could be a favorite brewery?
Boy, the best beer I had would be Hetty Topper. It's up in Burlington. Oh, what is the brewery? It's the Alchemist
Oh,
Brewery.
yes. I've heard so much about them. Yes.
Have you had Hetty Topper?
I have not.
It is so good. So that is still the first 5-star beer that comes to my mind. Your listeners can find me on
Sweet.
Untapped if you want to see the other 5-star beers.
Perfect. Yeah, Untapped. It's awesome. How about if you could live stream along with anyone, like anyone in the entire world, who would it be?
Probably Tiger Woods. I'm a big
Okay.
Tiger Woods fan. I mean,
I've heard of
again,
him.
there are two ways to go. There's two ways to go with this question. The Bachelor in me wants to say, Jennifer Lawrence, go that direction.
I think she's taken now, though.
Yeah, she is, unfortunately.
At the time of this recording.
So I would go Tiger Woods.
There you go. Not bad. He's had a quite the interesting life. I'll put it that way. How about if you could live stream in a fictional place? What fictional place would you choose?
Oh goodness.
You're welcome.
Yeah, geez, a fictional place. Boy, I'd go out on oof.
I'm going to put in the dial-up tone.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd probably want to go into like the Star Wars universe, maybe.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I'm not sure how the connection would be, but
yeah. You think the Wi-Fi is bad in Cleveland? I mean,
who knows? No, Cleveland has fantastic Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a lot of fun to zap into the Star Wars universe and do a bit of live streaming out there with Princess Leia.
Perfect. All right. Well, we will see you on Tatooine. Thank you so much, Chris. This has been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for sharing everything you've been up to and your thoughts. I mean, you're just such an empowering and inspiring person. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to share your message, share your story.
Man, this has been a blast. Thanks to everybody who's listened all the way through, and appreciate you, man. Maybe maybe the Cowboys will see you in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Browns Cowboys coming up soon. That's going to be a nightmare for my dad. How about, before we sign off here, where's the best place for people to connect with you and any sort of CTA you want? Yeah,
best place to connect with me is in real life at an event. Come out to Social Media Marketing World or Midwest Digital Marketing Conference. I love meeting people in real life. But if you're more of a digital first person, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram at Chris Strub, or my website is teamstrub.com.
And you are a fantastic follow. And last thing here, final thoughts, stage is yours. It could be anything you want. Send us off here. It could be a quote. It could be a line. You could just, apply some hand sanitizer, whatever you want.
I'd say do or do not. There is no try. Get out, press the damn button, set a big goal, stop waiting, start executing, learn as you go, and let me know how it goes. I'm there. I'm here to root along with you.
Wise you are. That's my best Yoda impression.
There you go.
All right, there. Thank you. I'm sure I'll get sued by them any minute now. Thanks so much, Chris.
You got it, Max. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Now you know I was the original voice of Yoda. And you also know Chris is one hell of a person. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more wild stories, make sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite app and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also check out our marketing, nonprofit marketing, and business growth resources at hippodirect.com/blog and hippodirect.com/newsletter. That newsletter is the Hippo Digest, and it's your place for wild marketing ideas every single week. And of course, if you like hippos or corny social media posts, come say hey on your favorite social media app at the handles Hippo Direct and Max Branstetter. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!